On Bora Bora, one of the most touristic of Polynesian atolls, men like Teoira like to tell this story. Taoroa, the Polynesian god who created the world, had a beautiful blue shark. The men would swim with him and even let their children climb onto his back. One day, the men got it into their heads that the shark was evil, and they decided to kill him. Two brave brothers were assigned the job. Once they had pierced his head with a spear, Taoroa became furious and reappeared, bringing his beautiful blue shark back to life. Ever since, fearing the wrath of Taoroa, the men respect the shark. Although the shark has become a profitable attraction here, the men have not forgotten the place he occupies in their culture. Teoira recalls that in the past, the shark, by carrying the spirits of the dead, enabled them to become ancestors. Teoira only fishes for sharks when it's absolutely necessary, and occasionally likes to repeat the movements his ancestors used to capture them.
In addition to being both prey and predator, the shark is also a social partner, a companion, a god, and perhaps a dispenser of justice. If, for example, man is attacked by a shark, man is to blame and not the shark. Oceanic people are never indifferent to the shark. For them, the shark is not looked upon negatively as he is in Western societies.
For a long time, Western man never ventured out on the high seas and confined himself to the coastal waters. All existing ancient rock drawings dealing with the shark represent him with ambiguity. The Bible takes no account of him. The first mention of him is undoubtedly in Babylonian mythology. The monster Bul, which literally means the devourer who swallowed up young girls, and Histubar, a brave hero who killed him, thus saving the coastal population from this scourge. Later, in the 5th century BC, the renowned Greek historian Herodotus recounts what happened to part of Darius's fleet near Mount Athos. It was thrown against the reefs, and the sailors died, not by drowning, in spite of a horrible storm, but by being seized and eaten by monsters with sharp teeth. The Romans knew more about sharks than the Greeks, and even distinguished the most dangerous species. When Pliny the Elder, in the 1st century AD, says that sea dogs can be threatening, he is referring to small sharks which are hard to identify, but which can threaten fishermen by attacking them at the ankles or injuring their groin. However, he said, all one had to do was stand up to them, try to frighten them, and they would go away. Thus, the monster was demystified to some extent. In the Middle Ages, the shark barely appears in works dealing with animals. The role he played, however, was totally allegorical, symbolizing worldly temptations to which good Christians must not succumb. He was the devouring mouth of evil, capable of swallowing up an honest man. The shark at that time was very often known as lami, a term of Greek origin, referring to a devouring mythological monster. In fact, the diabolical image of the shark, as we know him in the Western world, dates mainly from the Middle Ages. From the Renaissance onward, with the development of zoology and anatomy, with scientists such as Rondelet and Belon, the image of the shark changes radically. Dissection demystified the lami. Actually, Rondelet and Belon, the founders of French ichthyology, tried to demonstrate that the lami was a fish like any other, a potentially dangerous predator, of course, like the white shark, for example, but a creature which was part of the natural order, in spite of the mythology surrounding it. At the beginning of the 20th century, the shark began to be perceived as a vital part of the fishing industry, an animal with natural substances useful in making cosmetics or even vitamin A, but no longer as a monster or bogeyman of the ocean. This voracious animal had been almost domesticated by the industry in the early 20th century.
But the sea still conceals many mysteries and sometimes casts up very strange creatures, as here in Querqueville, France in 1934.
Dr. Petit, the assistant director of the fishing laboratory of the museum, studied this curious animal on the site. It had the head of a camel, the fins of a chimera, the skin of a seal, the flesh of a rayfish, and the hairs of an elephant. The scientist said he thought he was in the presence of a chelation, a sort of gigantic cartilaginous fish.
Actually, the reporter had distorted the words of Dr. Petit, who had identified a basking shark. It was this kind of distortion of the more rational view of sharks presented by naturalists of the period which perpetuated the popular image of the killer shark as represented by the press and in literature. Back to Africa, to the south of the continent, on the huge island of Madagascar, and the Vez people. The Vez are among the last nomadic peoples of the Indian Ocean. Just a few decades ago, they had no interest in sharks, since they only fish off flat boats in shallow water. Then one day, with the arrival of fishing nets, the Vez met up with some Chinese merchants who showed them that they could earn money shark fishing, since the shark's fins were an important part of Asiatic cuisine. Some Vez became specialists in capturing sharks. The Vez, however, are animists, which means they attribute a soul to every animal, phenomenon, or natural object. This new kind of fishing, therefore, disturbed the elders, who feared that the natural order of things would be troubled. A legend soon appeared. One day, a fisherman's boat was pulled down to the bottom of the sea by a horrible beast. Just when he thought all was lost, a shark approached him and said, "Don't be frightened. I'm not going to attack you. We are both children of the sea, and so you must tell your brothers that although they may fish for us, they must not exterminate us." Then the shark brought the man home. Ever since, in memory of their brother who was saved by a shark, the Vez respect this animal. Shark fishing has become a prestigious activity, strengthening the alliance between man and animal. Thousands of kilometers from here, on the other side of the Indian Ocean, in the Sunda Straits separating the Indonesian islands of Java and Sumatra, strong hands bring up a fishing line used for sharks. Today, one of the 80 thick steel hooks has caught a huge beast. He's a tiger shark, one of the fiercest of all species, who will even devour his fellow sharks. This specimen, measuring more than 4.5 meters, was caught on the line while lunging for a smaller shark, which he devoured in its entirety, except for the head. The shark is still alive, and the men struggle to pull him aboard. They pull with all their strength, but the almost 500-kilogram animal nearly capsizes their boat. In spite of the danger of other sharks being attracted to the blood, the braver fishermen dive in to attach the rope to the monster's tail. This rope will enable them to anchor the animal to the side of the boat, so that he can be pulled towards the nearest beach, where they can cut him up more easily. After a 2-hour struggle, the shark finally dies of suffocation.